The first thing is to say how much we value organisations like the Tourism Society. This is where the professionals come together, they actually talk about detailed tourism issues, and what we're trying to do here is trying to get them to raise the level a notch and look at where tourism fits into the big international issues of the day, which it does, if for nothing else, that, as we know, it's the industry which creates more jobs than any other industry, when every world leader is talking about creating jobs.
Well, first, governments, decision makers, high-level decision makers, prime ministers, heads of state, ministers of finance, ministers of interior, must start to acknowledge the importance and the relevance of this industry to people's life in this time and age, because that is not the case. And it's up to the members of UNWTO to exert that pressure in working with other players within the society. But then, as a result of that, governments must start weighing the impact of any decision they make on the travel and the tourism industry. Because the trend is that many, many decisions are taken, many policy decisions are taken, which have impact to hinder and or facilitate travel and tourism. But they are never seen through the filter and through the screen of what this really does to this industry that is becoming so vital, so important in people's life and in national economies, much more important than many of the governments realize it is.
We are trying to get our members the best information, we're trying to get them it in a modern electronic way, we're trying to dig out the best practice that people are doing, how people are using tourism to make stimulus work in a bigger context.
In our case, as a developing country, we have three requirements. Firstly, to make sure that we build resilience against future economic shocks. That means we will have to increase our product offerings, we'll have to improve our destination marketing, and we'll have to make sure that we have quality control of our products. That's the process that we are following in South Africa. Secondly, we have to make sure that we benefit directly from the stimulus packages. In our case, we are investing as a government 4 billion British pounds in infrastructure in our country. We know that tourism will generate over the next few years 1.2 billion British pounds for us. Our private sector is investing 1.5 billion pounds in building new hotels, guest houses. That's the kind of thing that we need. And then thirdly, and very importantly, we have to make sure that it is part of the green recovery. Environmental considerations the world over are becoming more important, and in the case of developing countries, even more so.
At UNWTO, we believe that also this industry has not yet come together to speak as one and in one voice yet. We are still trying to come to grips with the various elements of this widespreading industry, and that's why our ability to impress our agenda on the national and the global scene is still limited.
We are going to host and present, in our view, the best World Cup ever, a real African World Cup. The packages that we are putting together is to enable people to go on game drives in the morning, see elephant and lion and rhino and whatever, go to a match that same afternoon and be back in the bush that same evening. It will be a real African World Cup.
This industry will not develop in the way it needs to develop if we treat it simply one day at a time, even if for most people operating the business, as I said to my first Secretary of State who asked me, how do we measure success in this business? And I said, well, we could start with heads in beds, bottoms in seats, and feet through the turnstile. She said, that's very simple. And I said, well, it's simple to say, it's not easy to do. But for most people in this business who are the private sector drivers of this business, that's how they measure success. But what we're here today talking about is this broader issue of how do we create, if you will, the conditions for success. Those of you who are economic historians, which may, for your sake, be few, but I was one at one stage, will remember Walt Rostow's stages of economic growth. And you needed the preconditions of growth to get an industrial revolution going. And I think we need collectively to think about the preconditions of growth to get the next level of development in the tourism industry.
We in the developing world, we see tourism as the largest voluntary transfer of resources from the haves to the have-nots in history. Voluntary. We're fed by the fact that, tourists come in, and they're there, and they say, I'm here, I'm Joe and Joe tourist, where's I want to spend my money quickly. I'm leaving on Saturday. So it's a challenge to us to find ways to let them spend their money. So it's very key for us that we keep them. Now, as an example, British tourists take and leave more money in my country, Samoa, and in Fiji, and in Vanuatu, and all the other South Pacific islands than the British government gives in official development assistance. That's why it's important to us.
What we are now trying to do is to get together. We had discussions today with Marthinus. On Friday, we had discussions with the Chinese Minister of Tourism. And UNWTO is perhaps the one organization that has a chance at this moment to bring the tourism components of the G20 together and get them to go to their economy ministers, to their trade ministers, to their prime ministers and say, you have got a sector here. You're talking all around it, but you're not putting it together. So our message tonight and our message in this debate is the G20 is a very unique opportunity. And we should step back, marshal what are the key messages, not for us, not the messages which benefit tourism, but to show them how tourism is the one sector, and particularly, I repeat, for the poor countries, that can help them achieve the goals that they say they want to achieve. And that's why we started this debate this evening. Thank you.
I, as a small backbench third-party Member of Parliament, have learnt more about your agenda in this debate than I have done in 8 years in Parliament. So for no other reason, you've had an impact somewhere. It really has been a pleasure and a privilege to have the opportunity to chair you. Thank you to the Society. Ladies and gentlemen, your panellists.